Thank you, everybody, for attending Getting Started with Clarity Practice Management. So easy a managing partner can do it. My name's Frank Steitley. I am the CEO of Clarity Practice Management. I think most of you already know I am also the managing partner of a CPA firm, Steitley and Carstetter CPAs in Chantilly, Virginia. Many of you have seen our demo already. In fact, if you're on this invitation-only webinar, you've engaged with us in some way. So you've seen a training presentation or a demo, something like that. This isn't going to be a full-featured demo. My aim in this is to get you over the hump and into using Clarity Practice Management as quick as possible. So this is going to be really short on PowerPoint and a really long on demonstration. I'm going to be working without a net here. I'm probably going to screw some stuff up. I have no idea how long some of this will take. It probably depends on my ability to type today, but I'm recording it and we'll make this available to everybody in some fashion. There's no camera on me today. If you need a visual, just imagine I look like Brad Pitt and we can go from there. So let's get started. Our learning objectives today are, first of all, to learn the 3 things you need to get up and running immediately with Clarity Practice Management, whether you subscribed or whether you are on a trial version. This applies equally to both of those. Next, we're going to learn in a lot of depth how you can customize Clarity to work for your firm. The way I find people start out with Clarity is they take the base set of project types and setup that we give them, and then as they get more familiar with using the basic system, they then jump into customizing Clarity to be specific to their firm. So we're going to talk about that a lot. We're going to learn how to effectively collaborate with our clients and staff with Clarity, how to set that up. I like to call it herding cats, or clients and sometimes staff. We'll also learn how adopting Clarity is going to help you reach a younger client demographic in conjunction with your marketing efforts. And to give you an idea, this morning in the CPA firm, I put 3 new clients on Clarity already. They all came from Facebook marketing. They gave me their email addresses. So within about 5 minutes, I had them up and running as clients, and they were ready to start posting their tax documents. So let's jump right into the 3 things you needed to get started immediately on Clarity. And this is the order you need to do it. First of all, enter staff members. Then enter clients, and by the way, we can import clients for you. We can give you an Excel template, and you can copy and paste into that template, or you can give us an Excel spreadsheet, and we will massage it a bit. And then finally, enter projects. The reason for this particular order is you have to have staff members in to enter clients, because there's going to be a client manager from your staff on every client. Then once you have clients, you can then enter projects. Obviously, you can't enter projects without clients. So I'm going to jump right into a demo set of data that I have that is very nearly pristine, and that there's not a whole lot of stuff in it. So it'll be very similar to what you guys see when you get a trial version or when you're first set up. So where we're going to spend almost all of today is in this administration section. All the setup tasks are in here. So we're going to start out with setting up staff. That's our first task. So to do that, I open up staff and I go to manage user accounts. You can see I have a few in here, but I'm going to set up a new one so you can see what this looks like. I'm going to hit create new user. And again, you pick the role. Differing roles have different abilities to do things within Clarity. For instance, staff members cannot do things like back up the steps on a project or change the steps on a project. System admin people basically have the full run of the system and can do anything in the system. So I'm going to pick a system admin person, and my new employee will be Tony Soprano. And put in my email address. Pick one I haven't used before. And then I'm going to give Tony an initial password. And then once Tony logs in, he'll be able to set up his 2-factor authentication, as well as should immediately change his password. So now I have a choice. I can save and exit. I have this guy set up already. or I can save and add rate, which is what I'll do to show you what you can do in terms of setup. We have both cost rates and we have billing rates within Clarity. So I'm going to enter a new cost rate. And let's say his cost rate's $50 per hour. And I have a start date for that. So what that ought to imply to you immediately is that you can leave cost rates in. You do not have to edit them. When somebody's cost changes, you just create a new one. And what that does is it does not compromise your history. It doesn't go back in the timekeeping module and rewrite history with a different cost. So I'm going to pick today and hit add. So that's his cost rate. Now I'm going to add a billing rate. And it's similarly easy. And if I'm charging 50 bucks, or if I'm paying somebody 50 bucks, probably 200 is about right. And it works the same way, add new rate. This is really all there is in terms of entering staff. Very simple, but it is a very important first step in getting started with Clarity. Next step is we're going to enter some customers. That is not done under admin. That is done under clients. And you see I have some clients in here already. So I'm going to enter a new one. And to do that, I do create new client. Put in an address. And now I pick the client manager. This is the person who is in charge of the client. And this is why you have to have staff members in before you enter clients. So I'm going to pick Tony for this one. Put in the contact name, email, then we have a chance to enter some phone numbers. And I'm going to show you where these labels come from in a little bit. And now I hit save. And once I hit save, all of the other folder tabs come up that apply to this particular client. So I'm going to go first to user accounts. So this is where I'm going to set up the client's access to Clarity Practice Management. And you can set up so that more than one email address accesses one client. In other words, you might have a corporate account where the business owner's email accesses the client, as well as the controller. Also, one email address can access more than one client. So to do this, I'm going to create new user. But what I'm going to do first is a little hack, is I know the login is going to be the email address, so I'm going to copy and paste it. So I'm going to hit Control-C, copy it. And now when I start with the new user, I can just copy that right in, put in the name. And you do not have to put in a full name here. You can just put in first name, something like that. Is this user going to be active? And is this user going to receive system emails? This mostly just applies when you're turning people off. For instance, if you have a divorce situation and you want to deactivate somebody from an account, or for instance, if the controller leaves. So I'm going to hit Save button. And you can see that the multi-factor authentication phone number popped in here. That's because this email is already in the system. If not, you have the ability to put the phone number in, or the user will put it in the first time they log into the system. But because this is already an active email in the system, it knew automatically this person's name. Of course, you can edit this, you can delete it. Here's where you can reset passwords for clients. They can do it on their own as well at the login screen. Notifications. These are all the things that the system has sent to Daddy and Mommy Shark dashboard on their side. Internal files. This is a place for us to post documents that only we can see. I would think of this as something like a perm file. I might put an S-Corp election form in here. I might put the IRS EIN confirmation, something like that. but we can also post files for the client here. This is not normally where you're going to post files for a client. You're normally going to post them to a project. But again, you can think of this as something like the perm file. Tags. Tags are ways of classifying clients in groups. I'll show you a little bit later how you set up the tags and where they get set up in admin, but it's really simple to, and you can hold down the control key and hold on to multiples and assign a tag. These tags are useful in looking up clients. They're also useful in putting together mass emails, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Jurisdiction due date, we'll talk about setting that up in just a couple of minutes. But the way it works is once it's set up, you just select the due dates you want and hit add. And as I said, we will show you how to set up the jurisdiction due dates in a few minutes. Okay. So that's about all I want to cover on this screen. It's really simple. How to get clients up and running into the system. The final step is entering projects. And the way you enter projects is you call up the client on the screen. And again, you do that from the client search screen. And I'm going to the client screen. And then we have a couple of choices as to how to create a project. First of all, you can create a new project from scratch, which means you'll complete all of the fields. Or you can create a project from a template. And I'm going to show you how to create templates as well today. This is one of the most powerful features in Clarity, and it lets you literally set up a tax return project in less than 10 seconds. And I think in February, March, and April, that's really what you want to be doing. But we're going to do it the hard way first to show you that it's not all that hard. I'm going to hit Create New Project. So I'm going to give it a project name. See, my typing is suspect already. Next, we give it the project type. We're going to talk about project types very extensively shortly. But in this case, I'm going to pick personal tax returns, personal returns. We then have 4 positions on this project. Pick a few people. And I'll pick Tony down here as the preparer. We can give it a priority. Give it the project state when we're just getting started on a project. We're going to make it an active project. Client delivery methods. This is a user definable table. I'll show you where that is later. Filing method, ditto, user definable table. Then we have some dates to assign. Assign date, project due date, and expected delivery date. I am going to put in a date for the tax season that will never end. I heard again this morning that we're probably going to get yet another extension to the filing deadline. So when are we going to deliver this, or when do we think we're going to deliver this? I'll say July 14th. Clients do not see this expected delivery date. So let's go to workflow steps. This is where you're going to assign people to the individual workflow steps. We're going to talk about setting up workflow steps in a minute. And I'm just going to blow through here very quickly and assign myself to all of these. Hit the Save button. And now I have workflow steps, and we can begin handing this off to the next person in line. Q&A, this is where you're going to ask questions of clients. And again, this isn't a demo, so I'm not going to go through all of that stuff. I am going to show you how to set up Q&A templates as we get in here a little bit. So right now, I basically have a project set up and ready to go. So we're ready to have our staff start working on this. So those are basically the 3 things that we have to do to repeat again to get started immediately. And I believe you can get started in Clarity. I think you can get started within 2 days for most people. One of the things we give you initially is we give you a base set of project types and email notifications. In this next section, I'm going to show you how to work on all of that stuff, how to change it, so forth. But I think it's a great idea to start out with just the types that we have in there. Get used to them, get used to the workflow steps, decide what you like, decide what you don't like, and then make modifications from there. What we're going to do next is show you the setup functions in Clarity Practice Management. We're going to show you how to use the admin functions to herd your cats by automating most of your routine communications with clients. We're also going to show you how this can help you set up a national or international workforce. We have about 15 people that we work with literally around the globe during tax season. So they can be anywhere. If you're using a service like Initor that provides outsourced tax prep and accounting help, we started using them this year and we had a really good result with them. So I think we're going to continue that for certain. So let's next dive into exploring the management administrative functions. I told you we weren't going to spend much time in PowerPoint. So we're going to go here under administration. And I'm just going to go through here the subscription screen relatively quickly. This is where you put in your payment information when you're ready to subscribe. Very simple, you can edit payment. This also tells you the version number of Clarity, and that for the most part doesn't matter a lot for you, in that you're going to always be on the latest version. You can also see a billing history of what you've paid. So if you're wondering why you paid a particular amount for a particular month, you'll be able to come in here and see what our user count was for that month and why you got billed what you got billed. And again, I should make the point that you can have users in Clarity and you can turn them off or inactivate them and then turn them back on as you need to. Let's get down and see some of the company setup things. There's some, I think, important stuff in here. First of all, your company name, long name, short name. This short name is important in that the folder tab where it says files from that you have posted, the short name is what shows up in that folder tab. What's your home page? What is the place for your clients to go to log in? And for the most part, we set this up for you, but if for some reason you want to change it, address, state, city, zip, phone number, has some other phone numbers you can put in, contact number or contact email, so forth. You can also change the company color and you can load your logo here. And I believe we typically load your logo when you first start out with a trial or a subscription. But if for some reason you want to change the logo, it's very simple to browse and do that. Payment gateway. If you want to accept credit cards directly on Clarity Practice Management, you will get this information from your credit card processing company. Clarity itself does not process the emails. Clarity uses this identification information and hands it off to the gateway for your credit card processor. So you can see we can verify credentials here. Right now we're in test mode, which means if I ran a charge, it would not go anywhere. So you will want to have that not in test mode when you're ready to go. Company preferences. First one we have is allow clients to create projects. This is a yes or no. We allow in SK CPAs, we allow clients to create projects. What they normally create projects for is CP 2000 letters, stuff like that. That way you don't always have to create a project for a client. But again, some people don't like that. I was scared to death when we turned this on that clients were going to create a lot of projects with wrong project types. And as a matter of fact, they do create some with wrong project types. However, that doesn't really matter. We download the files, we delete the project, and we create the project the way we want to create it. Session timeout. I'll talk about project admin tasks a little bit when we get a little bit further into setup. This is a question of whether or not you want the tab to actually show up for the client, yes or no. Session timeout. This is how long you can be in Clarity before you get a grace period warning message that you will be logged out. The reason we have this in the system and the reason it is only 120 minutes is we want to be mindful of the IRS rules that say you need to have at least one clean login a day. And the grace period, in this case, we have set up as 2 minutes before it actually boots you out of the system. Down in time tracking, do you want time tracking, yes or no? Auto project time tracking, what that means is when you open a project, it will automatically start a timer if you have this clicked at yes. Require a reason when a user changes time, yes or no? And this is when they edit a time ticket. Are you requiring task comments for a time entry? Also then have the minimum threshold to record time, and then we have the rounding criteria that we want to use. I think most CPA firms at this point round to 15 minutes. So these are some of the company preferences that lets you set it up to work a little bit the way you want it to work. Let's go next to engagement letters. I've mentioned in the past that you can upload engagement letters to Clarity and be able to just select them at the project screen. It's very simple. Take your engagement letter, drag and drop it into here, and then when you go to the engagement letter tab on a project, you'll be able to select the engagement letter that you want for that particular project. What I'm going to go to next is I'm going to skip email and come back to it. Instead, I'm going to go to clients, and we will come back to email in a little bit. But first, I want to hit tags. Talked a little bit about tags being a way to classify clients. And you can see I have quite a few tags here. In our CPA firm, we use these really extensively. We divide clients up by individual, by type of business, by the year they became a new client. We have a tag for people to get our tax e-blasts. We have tags for almost everything, government contractors, all sorts of tags. The way the tags work is really easy. You add a new tag. Tag name, tag description. Do we want it active or not? Hit the save button. Now we have it. Down here somewhere we have medical related. There it is. So you can see tags are really easy to do. You can hit the edit button to make changes. You can delete them. You can also view right here all the clients that are attached to a particular tag. I don't know how much I'll have in here. This is a pretty blank system. I guess I have one. How about that? The one I just did. So that's tags. Next is phone types. This is where you can enter all the different phone types that you would like to have in Clarity Practice Management. There's no real limit to how many of these. This is a pick list that you put together. So if you need to find a client at his girlfriend, put in the girlfriend number. It's that simple. And again, you can also see who these are attached to. Worksheet files. These are files that you can upload for clients. We have, for instance, a lot of worksheets. We have a Schedule C worksheet, which is really an Excel spreadsheet. We have Schedule E worksheet that does the same thing. We have a home office worksheet. The interesting thing I found is that people can fill out these Excel spreadsheets that basically look a lot like the tax form, but they can't get anywhere near close to filling out the tax form, which I think is excellent for us. And I'm just going to edit one of these just to show you what's in here. You can assign what file type it is. There are 3 different types of worksheets you can have: client worksheet, helpful hints, or news release. These all show up in slightly different sections on the client side of Clarity. And again, you give it a description. Underwhelming, there's not a whole lot here to do. It's very easy to get this functionality. Merge clients. This is something you probably did not know existed in Clarity. If you have, for instance, a client that gets duplicated because 2 different people enter it, it's very simple to merge them. You put the name of the client you want to get rid of, and I recommend copy and paste to do this in the client screen, and you merge it into the one you want to be the destination. And when it does that, it takes all the projects completed, in process, and so forth, all of the history, and moves it all into that second client that's in that list. Very easy to do. Delivery types, this is how do you deliver your projects. You can see we have quite a few here. We mostly use web at this point. We delivered probably over 95%, easily over 95% of our returns directly to Clarity Practice Management. In fact, next year we're going to charge for paper because it's such a pain in the backside. So that's some of the stuff you can set up for clients. Next, we're going to go into sort of the heart of Clarity, which is the project section. And we're going to spend some time in here. And the first thing is project types. And I think you know, if you've taken a demo, how essential project type is to Clarity. It defines a whole lot of things. And we're going to go in there and show you what those things are. Project types are typically your deliverables, tax returns, valuations, bookkeeping, bank recs, whatever you can think of that you deliver to a client. But it does not have to be just deliverables. You can have projects, for instance, for onboarding. And I think I'm going to use that as an example shortly. It's a great place to get clients to upload all of their initial data so that you can get started. What I'm going to do first is drill into one of these. So I'm going to take the personal returns and I just click on it so that I get to the screens. And then you can see there are 4 folder tabs here. Workflow steps, questionnaire, checklist, and project templates that I mentioned earlier. All of this stuff happens here. The workflow steps are all the detailed steps that a project type goes through from beginning all the way to completion. If we take a look here, we have the workflow step. Then we have the status. The status is something that you cannot add to. The system has these statuses in here. And what the status is what the client sees on their end. If you want to send a notification to a client when a project hits a particular status, you can use an email template. And I said we're going to talk about emails later. I will absolutely do that. The first thing is that you need to have a project in here before you can attach an email template. Next, we have reminder templates. You can see down here for draft, we have a reminder template called Draft Reminder. What this email does, or what a reminder does, is if this project remains in this stage for more than a user-defined number of days, a reminder email goes out, and it is the reminder email coming from this template. And again, whether or not we're sending emails, yes or no. Days to completion. This is how many days you expect this step to remain before it's completed. Estimated hours, you've probably seen the company dashboard that has the roll-up of workload by person. We have a place to edit these. I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit this draft sent, show you what's in there. We're then going to come back and I'm going to enter a new project type from scratch so that you can see it. First, we have a workflow name. Then we have the status that we want the clients to see. Then we have the email template. And again, that's a pick list from templates you've created. When you first sign up for Clarity, we give you a base set of these, but you can edit these to your heart's content. And then we have a reminder, days to completion, and then estimated hours for this particular step. And do we want to send the email? Obviously, if you're going to put in an email template and a reminder template, you better have the send email checked, or it's not going to happen. Sort order over here I haven't talked about, but this is the actual order of the workflow steps. So you can reorder them very quickly just by changing the order for each particular step. So those are the workflow steps. These are the areas where I think you will likely want to customize Clarity extensively once you get into it, because there's no guarantee that the workflows that we put together is exactly the way you work in your firm, or there's no guarantee that the way we do it is better than the way anybody else does it. If you look at my CPA firm, we have a more extensive list. For instance, there's probably another 4 or 5 statuses here, or workflow steps, than there are in the base set that we give you. But we think you should probably start out simple, find out what you like, and then modify it. If you want to add a new workflow step, you just hit the add button and create a new one. You're probably aware that you can have questions templates that are attached to project types. So I will go back to that tab. This is where you set up those questions. And they are specific to project type. You can see we have quite an extensive list here. And to add a question, it's that simple. And then when you go to a project and you create a questions list, you'll then have that question is available. If you don't like the order of these, it's very simple. You just drag them and drop them until you have them the way you want. So this is where the questionnaire templates come from. Post-completion templates, or checklists, I mean. This is where you set up the checklist for items that you want to show up in a project checklist. If you want to add a new one, you just hit Add New. Of course, the one people tend not to tell us to till we finalize their return. They forget about those little things running around behind the scenes, and there you can see we have it. And finally, on project types, we have project templates. Project templates are really how you can create projects in a big hurry, in the 10 seconds or less. Project templates are basically pre-staffed projects with everything filled out and ready to go. And I'm going to show you how to do this. And this may be one of the most important things you learn today. I'm going to hit Add New Project Template. So I want, what is the project name going to be? And of course, this is changeable. Project template name. And there goes my typing. Don't think I've used red team yet. Of course, project type, you're already into project type. Here we fill out our positions on the project. Over here, what's our default method for filing? How are we going to deliver it? Project due date is likely the due date of the tax return. And then expected delivery date. You will almost certainly change this expected delivery date. So now I hit save. And now the last part of this is I go back to workflow steps and I assign each step to a person so that when I create a project, this is already done for me. And I'm really just randomly assigning people at this point. These due dates are all spaced out based on the project type screen initially as to what the dates are between steps. So you shouldn't have to set these, but you can then manually set these later. So it's very simple now. I hit that, and now I have a new project template. And to show you how that's going to work, I'm going to go over to Daddy Shark, and I'm going to set up a project from a template, show you how fast this is. There's my new template. I can accept that description if I want. I'm going to use today's date, hit create, and now I'm up and running. This one's ready to go. You can see it's already staffed. It has the delivery methods, has the due date. The workflow steps are defined and staffed. The Q&A templates here from the actual project setup. We have the post-engagement checklist is set up. Everything is literally ready to go at this point. All you got to do is put it into play. So I think you can see that's pretty easy. So that's basically what it's like to create or to edit, actually, in this case, a project type. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to administration projects so I can get to a blank screen, and I'm going to go create new. I'm going to call it client onboarding. Pick a color if I want. Not that I care that much. I'm not a color guy. Hit the save button. And now you can see it's here. I'm going to want to edit that. I also want to make it active so that so it's available to be used. Oops. Got to do some setup before I can do that. Workflow steps. Add new workflow. Status is not started. Not going to do any of that. No email. That's my first step. I'm going to add a new workflow. In progress. Later on, I'm going to come back in here and put in an email template. But first of all, I have to have the project set up before I can do the email templates. And then I will normally set up a workflow at the end. Completed. Done. So that's how simple it is to set up a workflow. Pretty simple. We'll come back a little bit later after we create an email, and we'll attach an email template in here. Questionnaire. We don't have any questions yet. And there goes my typing again. Okay, there's one question. Let's do another one. I think you can see the idea here. We're building a questions template. Checklist, add a new item. Boy, I'm really doing good today typing-wise. And now we have a post-engagement checklist. Finally, the project template. Pretty easy to do. Oh, I want to call this a little something different. And I'll call this. And I'm just going to pick Bill for all these, I believe. Don't really care about the dates for this. We'll set them up at the project level. And now we go to the workflow steps. You see, we don't have a lot of workflow steps. And now we have a project type for client onboarding, as well as a questionnaire, checklist, and project templates. This is going to be a heart of a lot of what you guys are setting up. So let's go over next to administration. Let's get down to taxes. This is where we're going to set up jurisdiction due dates. And jurisdiction due dates are a combination of three pieces here. Tax type of jurisdiction gives you a jurisdiction due date. So you start out with the tax type. See one I don't have. And now I have a new tax type. I'm going to go to jurisdiction. I only have federal. I'm going to do a county personal property tax. Do lots of these in Virginia. And then I'm going to go to jurisdiction due date. And I'm going to do that by selecting first the jurisdiction. We put in Fairfax County, then the tax type, personal property. Oops, got to hit the right one. And then the jurisdiction due date. And the year does not really matter for this. The year will change. You can see it just displays the 2-digit day. And now we have a jurisdiction due date. Pretty simple. What I'm going to hit next and really briefly is managing admin tasks. This isn't something that I could say we use a lot in our CPA firm, but I think some people are going to find it useful. An admin task is a one-off sort of thing that you want to do. For instance, you'll probably build in an 8879 reminder workflow step, email in a workflow step called needs e-filing papers or something like that. But once in a while, you got to give a client a little kick in the pants. And what the admin tasks are ways of storing a message that can go out to them anytime you want to do it. And you can trigger the message one at a time, but you don't have to type the message. So again, what you'll do is you'll pick a workflow template, you'll pick a reminder template, which I don't have any for this. I'll show you where these are due. And then you hit the save button and you have an admin task. I can't say I found wildly useful. We do most of our notes and reminders, notifications and reminders directly in the workflow. Last thing I want to talk about is something that probably not many people know about called managing alerts. Alerts are a really powerful way to communicate with all of your clients and or staff all at one time. We use these extensively this year as the tax deadline shifted out from under us. We also use them a lot for the PPP program rule changes. So as something changed with the PPP program, rather than have to get people to know about it individually, we were able to do it in Clarity all at once. So to create a new one, create new. Now I'll just call this PPP update. Then you put in what you want to put in. Then we have the type. What type of this is this? So you get a pick of how it will show up for clients and staff, what color. Start date, end date. Auto close delay, this is how long in seconds this stays on the screen before it disappears on its own. Clients can always, and staff can always X out of it. And who do we want to see this, staff or clients? Save. And now we have to activate it. But now it's going to happen between these two dates. Anybody who logs into Clarity Practice Management is going to get that green update that talks about PPP. Let's round back now and let's go to the email notifications. Again, we give you a base set of these when you sign up for Clarity. But this is where you can add new ones. This is where you can modify the ones we have. And I think you're probably going to spend more time modifying them than you actually spend creating new ones. Although you could create new ones, it's all up to you. First one I'll hit is event emails. And now you can see our green update there, our alert. Email triggers or event emails happen at basic triggers that you can see here that are predefined by the system. In other words, you cannot add to these email triggers. These are system events. You can, however, change the emails that go along with them. And the way you do that is hit the edit button. Oops. And then you can come into the body of it. You can also see that we have reserved words that show up in the brackets, and you can see down below what those reserved words are. So you can then come in here and change the wording if you want to have it say something different. You can also deactivate these. If for some reason you don't want one of these to work, you can hit the inactivate and there will not be an email trigger. Some of these apply to clients, some of them apply to you. For instance, this client updates client info. That actually generates a dashboard notification for your internal admin staff that a client has changed name, address, or something like that. So again, you can't change these email triggers. However, you can change the subject or what the email triggers say. Workflow completion. These are the notifications that happen based on workflow steps. So you're familiar with, when we have a project, and I will go to a project. And if I go to the workflow steps, you can see here that this is where we have email notifications. This is where the email notifications come from, is back here under workflow completion emails. So you can see here we have one that goes out under answered questions, draft, e-file accepted, so forth. This is the actual name, and then the text of the email is here. So you can add new ones here. So if you have workflow steps that you would like to do that are specific to something else, and you can see again we have the reserved words. And now we have a new one. We can now attach this to a project. So if we went back into projects and project type, that's where we attach it. And I might do one more. And I'll show you how we can attach this later. A few minutes. I'm just going to copy that, make it quick. So now I have an email template that I can attach to a particular step. Workflow reminders are very similar, only these are the reminders instead of the actual email templates. They work exactly the same, except you're going to put them in a different column with the project type. Mass emails. You can send mass emails out of Clarity to your clients. The way you do that, it's a two-step process. First, we create an email template, and then you go to schedule mass emails. You can also attach a file to go out in the mass email. I will tell you to be a bit careful if you're going to do that, because it's possible to get listed as a spammer relatively quickly if you're sending out attachments, particularly things that have PDFs, Word docs, or stuff like that. And I'm going to keep this really simple. Now I have a mass email. It's ready to go. So I can now schedule it. Creating a schedule is really easy. And I select my template, my PPP program update. I can send these just to all clients, or I can send them to some that I tag, specific groups. And I can tag more than one. I can send it now. So if I hit now and off it goes and save, it's going to be on its way. Or I can choose a date and a time to send it, which is what we are typically going to do. I will send it June 30th at 2 p.m. And now it's ready to go. If you want to cancel it, you can cancel, you can delete it. You can see how easy it is to send a mass email. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip these admin task emails because there's some other things I'd like to show you that I think are maybe a bit more important. What I'd like to do next is show you how to attach the workflow completion and the workflow reminder emails to projects. So I'm going to go back to projects. I'm going to go back to my project type. And I'm going to go to my onboarding, assuming my eyes can find it. So I'm going to drill into it. And now my workflow steps, I'm going to say here my obtained 3 years. I'm going to edit that. I'm going to pick my email template. Please send me your tax returns. And if I had a reminder, I would do that, but I do not. Send email and save. Now when I create a project using this, it'll then say send an email. So I'm going to go back to my Daddy Shark client and show you what our new project looks like. We're going to create from template. I'm going to grab the template. I'm going to grab, I don't know which one I want to grab here. I guess I didn't do a template for onboarding. So let's do a template for onboarding real quick. Activate. And I guess I got to go reopen that screen from scratch. And I can't see that for some reason. I don't have all the screens open correct order. Basically, the way you'll do it is take that, and when you create the template, you'll then be able to see under the workflow steps that you have an email that is potentially going to go out. It'll be checked yes. So that's how you attach an email template and a reminder template to a project type. What I'd like to show you next in some of the time we have available, and we're running maybe a little bit behind. I knew I had a lot of content to squeeze in here, is I want to show you what I call contactless tax return. I'm going to pop up just again for just a brief moment, the PowerPoint. And I'm going to talk about a contactless tax return. I have one of these already set up in a different data set. By contactless, I mean no meetings, no phone calls, and no emails. So basically what I'm going to show you is the end result of remote workflow where there are no meetings, phone calls, or emails. So I'm into a data set that has a Mommy and Daddy Shark project for individual tax returns that is completed. The way this starts out is that Daddy Shark is going to upload all of his files to the Files from Client folder. When that happens, everybody who's on this project gets a notification on their individual dashboard. Daddy Shark then also leaves me a note over here in the public notes that says, I just posted my files. He didn't have to do that, but it's nice to know that it was completed or that he was done with his files. Then I leave a note back, thanks Shark Daddy, I'll get started. At this point, I leave a note for our admin, Kathy. Please D&P. D&P is code for us that means download and process. Kathy takes all the files from the Files from Client tab, smashes them into a PDF, runs it through our autoflow program, and gets it ready for the tax preparer, who is Michelle. Kathy then leaves a note for Michelle saying, the INT is ready for prep. INT is what we name the file internally once it's ready to be used, the source documents. Next, Michelle comes up with a list of questions and missing items. She notifies me. I then go to the Q&A tab. I look at the questions that she would like to send, and you can see here we have a couple of normal questions: engagement letter, miscellaneous income, major changes, etc., farm bank account. I then transmit those questions. I have a submit button. Daddy Shark gets an email notification as well as notification on his dashboard. Daddy Shark then goes in and answers the questions. And then when Daddy Shark hits the submit button, everyone who's on the project again gets a notification that the answers have been submitted. And you can see here that we are tracking the date that we sent it, the date that it was answered, and the date that we closed it. Michelle then picks up the answers, completes the return, gets it ready for review. She then tells Christy, the reviewer, that it's ready for review. Christy then reviews the return and leaves her review notes on the Review Notes tab. And you can classify review notes. Michelle then fixes the review notes, and then she tells me that it's ready for my final review. So I go back and I tell everybody I'm going to do a final, or actually Christy posts them, Michelle then finishes the return. Then I go back and do a final review and post a draft. That's done to the Files from our firm. You can see we have a draft return, which has since been deleted because the project's done. Daddy Shark can either approve or disapprove the draft with a button on his side. If he disapproves of it, he gets a chance to leave a reason for disapproval. Daddy Shark, when he approves it, we get a note here in the public notes that says he approved it. If he disapproved it, there would be a reason there. Also leaves another note asking, am I a communist? Do I work for the IRS? And my favorite is, I can't owe that much. I don't have that much. At that point, I send it on to be finalized to Kathy. Kathy then finalizes. She puts in her instructions for filing. And you can see here at the Files from our firm, you can see the final tax return. This is how we break it up to make it easy for clients to digest. Daddy Shark then posts his 8879 forms for his favorite IRS lackeys. We see that over on the Files from Client. He signed 8879 form for you IRS employees. I then leave a note for Daddy Shark that his returns have been e-filed, let you know as soon as our close friends accept them. Then I let them know that they have been accepted. This is really a superfluous task here because in our workflow, we have an automatic email notification going out at the end of the process here that tells him that they've been accepted already. But I left a little personal note. And that's basically how a contactless tax return looks in a very quick whirlwind presentation. This was done without emails, without meetings, and without any phone calls. And I can tell you this happens for us about 85% of the time. That doesn't mean we don't have some phone calls. Sometimes I'll have a phone call to go over a draft. But most of the time, we don't have a meeting, phone call, or email. We used to get about 75% of returns done this way. This year with COVID, we were up to about 85%. People discovered how nice it is to sit on your butt on a couch and not have to do anything to get your tax return done other than post files. I want to talk about a case study, and I think we're rounding down to about the last 2 or 3 minutes here. Let's say you have a firm of 10 people and you have 2,000 clients and your average billing rate's $175 per hour. Before Clarity, if you're spending on average 2 phone calls per client and 3/4 of a meeting, and the phone calls last 15 minutes and the meetings last 3/4 of an hour, you're spending over 2,100 hours a year on phone calls and meetings. After implementing Clarity, we can cut easily 50% of that time out. Oops, and I'm back one too far. Easily 50% of that time out. In fact, in my case, my practice has grown by about 3 times over a dozen years, and I'm down to about 1/3 of the meetings I used to have. Maybe not even that many. Mostly just new clients. So if we look at a reduction of about 1,000 hours at $175 an hour, that translates into almost $200,000. I can tell you that Michelle, one of my partners, recently looked at our firm versus the metrics for similar firms with our FTEs. In 2019, we were $300,000 of revenue above similar firms with the same number of FTEs. And I attribute that entirely to not spending time on meetings and phone calls unnecessarily. Here's a firm with just a solo practitioner. The same sort of situation, except now we're saving about $28,000. This is real money. I know in Virginia that's about room and board and tuition at a Virginia state school. So we're talking about some real money here. My last topic today is how Clarity is going to help you reach younger clients. Here's a big problem that we have, almost all of us. Our client base is aging. In a lot of cases, our average clients are over 60 years old. And this is something to keep in mind when you're buying practices, is just how old are these clients? The reason is these clients are not going to be clients long enough for you to sell them to the next person when it's time for you to retire. We need to replace these people with younger clients. Now, marketing is a key to building a younger pipeline. In other words, you've got to find out where the younger clients are and find a way to reach them from a marketing standpoint. But I can tell you, once you found them, they're going to want to communicate electronically and securely. I use this joke all the time. What happens when you call a millennial cell phone? Absolutely nothing, because millennials don't answer the phone. They want to communicate electronically. And as I mentioned already today, I've had 3 clients this morning who found us in a Facebook group who sent me messages on Messenger. I had them up and running in Clarity in less than 5 minutes apiece. They're now posting their documents today, and we'll get started with the prep tomorrow. So Clarity Practice Management basically becomes your client hub. If you're having trouble getting Clarity implemented, or you just feel like you don't want to do it yourself, contact us and I will put together a custom proposal to help you make some of the setup choices, help you create project types and workflows, and make certain you get up and running really smoothly. So we do that on a custom quote basis. I'm going to open it up for questions. What I'd like to do is, if you guys can type your questions into the questions block. We have quite a few people on today, so I'm afraid if I unmute everybody, what's going to happen is we're going to hear all kinds of background noise. I've been down that road before, and it really doesn't work that well. If you have any questions, there's my contact information. There's Peter Daniels' contact information. If you haven't already done the free trial, and I think most of you have, if you didn't get to use your free trial, email us and we will reactivate your free trial. As well as Clarity is free through the end of July. So if you sign up and subscribe, your first bill will not come until August. And also check out our YouTube channel. We have a lot of short videos that cover Some of the stuff we've covered today, actually, most of it, but it covers it one topic at a time. And I think that's basically it. So if you have questions, by all means, if you'd like to type them in, and I think I'm going to try to unmute everybody. Don't know how successful I'll be. There we go. What do we have for questions? Okay, I'm scrolling down through this a little bit. Let me get out of here. Had a question about where are those questions templates put together for projects again? They are under administration, projects, project types. So you go into the project type where you would like to create a questionnaire or templates for questions. Go back to the questionnaire screen. And here you can see add questions. That's where you do that. Oh, I had a question about recurring projects, which I did not show you today. One of the things we've added in the last 6 months, I believe, is recurring projects. So let me show you one of these quickly. I'm going to go back to my Daddy Shark client. I showed you how to set up both a project from scratch and one from a template. You can also set up a recurring project. What's a good example of a recurring project? A recurring project is something like an annual tax return, for instance. And let's say you want to create that tax return project once, but you don't want to have to create it again every year. So we do that by creating a recurring project. And you can either do a recurring project and complete all the fields, or you can do a recurring project from a template. So I'm going to pick template. I'm going to pick myself as in charge. Going to give it a name, a priority. How often do I want this project to recur if it's a tax return yearly? When do I want that tax return recurring project to show up? So I'm going to pick February 1st. When do I want this sequence of recurring projects to start? Pick today. I'm not going to have an end date where I can pick an end date. Do I want it active, and do I want to create the first project now? So I will say yes to schedule recurring project. And just like that, I've got a recurring project. If I go back to Daddy and Mommy Shark, you can see down here at the bottom, I now have a recurring project schedule. So you can see every year on February 1st, you'll get a new project. Question, are clients able to sign 8879 electronically? By the end of the summer, yes. We will have a really unique solution to e-signing, and it won't just be 8879s. It'll be any document you choose. And the thing that's going to be really, really unique about it is that it will not involve email in any way, shape, or form. So you're not going to have clients who mistrust an email coming from a domain other than yours. They're going to be able to do the signing process entirely on Clarity. And that, again, that's in development now. It'll be there by the end of the summer. Thank you, Charles, for your comment. Charles is a buddy of mine from Inator. And I'm just looking to see what else we have for questions. I do not see anything else. It's a lot to scroll through here. Okay, again, thank you very much for attending. I'm going to pop up my contact information again. I love to talk practice management with everybody. Hi, Mario. I saw you, and you have some other people there. Good to see you. Again, if you have questions, by all means, let me know. We're going to make this recording available. I don't know exactly yet how that's going to be, but you'll get a notice as to how you can get this recording. And until then, by all means, please contact me if you have questions. Love to talk practice management. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll catch you down the road somewhere.